we have Michael, who's going to share lessons from AIE Code Summit, which happened in New York this year, right?
Hi, so I am Michael. I am a junior AI engineer at Trustlight. Trustlight is aviation regulation and compliance. It's a bunch of different bits of software and different software products in there. That's the capacity I work at. My background, this is my first year as a software engineer. Before this, I was doing a master's, so I'm fresh into this, not coming in with that kind of expertise. That's context on there, and I just want to talk about the AIE Code Summit that I went to in November of last year, and lessons learned, takeaway from that. This is Trustlight. They sponsored me to go to the conference, and we are hiring for some different roles, so if you're interested, reach out to me on LinkedIn and talk to me after this. Some other little things that I've been working on. This is an app that I'm making to just connect with friends or remember to connect with friends, because since I started programming, I've been reaching out to friends less. And then I also do some YouTube videos. This is just like a primer on agents if you don't know what the heck they are. And if you do, then maybe there's some comedy in there for you. So point is, very new, very thin experience base, doing a lot of things, but not for a long time yet. So the whole reason I went to AIE Code Summit was to try and answer this question, because it seemed to me coming into the workplace that software development is going through kind of a change in how software is developed rapidly. And I was curious at this kind of conference, is it going to say anything about the change in the next year? It seems like adoption of cursor and code assistance has become pretty mainstream. Are there things coming down the pipe that I should be aware of? And could this conference help me to answer that? So that's kind of the question I went in trying to figure out. This is what the conference setup was. So these are different days. Just giving me feedback. It was like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was a single track. That's what the one thing is meant to represent. So you were just in one room as the talks were going on. And there were about 800 people in attendance. This is the expo floor on the ground where there are different vendors coming in and selling the wares. This one was themed for code assistance and code generation. So there was Cursor, Factory, a lot of other groups like that, Source, which does camp. Just to give you a sense, like if you were to go in the future and have the same venue, these are some people you would see. And then these are the actual names that they had attending and funding and bidding in, to give you a sense of who's at the conference. One sec. Okay, so context on this conference, it's put on by the people who run the Latent Space podcast, and one of them kind of seemed to coin the term AI engineer. So I usually follow them for a sense of what are some of the latest things happening, not quite bleeding edge happening, but making a lot of money or a lot of noise coming out. This is the conference put on by them, and for the particular conferences they run two. YK was saying earlier that he's giving presentations, and I think it was at the Summer World's Fair every year in San Francisco. And that's more if you haven't worked in AI before and you're looking to get in, it's one of those bigger conferences with a bunch of rooms to get into. This one is meant to be smaller. It is invite only, so you apply and they say yes or no based on if you've actually been working with AI agents or AI workflows. So that is context on who's there in terms of companies and people attending. And for everybody who's like, okay, AI can generate a lot of code, but it's still pretty crappy. Maybe it gets 80% there in the best cases, but you still need to take a lot of time. The main focus of the conversation I was hearing at this conference, especially from a lot of talks, was we can now get it to generate code quickly, but how do we get to that, do the last mile and actually generate quality code coming from it? So if you're wondering where are people who are on the edge of this, what are they thinking about? They're trying to think and solve the problem with quality code going in. Some quick hits that came away from the conference, because at my company we're also thinking about, okay, let's get a lot of documentation because AI is going to read that in if it's going to understand how to operate our systems. When it comes to documentation, what I learned at the conference is focus more on documenting why you made certain decisions rather than the specific implementation of the code, because the specific implementation could change a lot over time, and it would be better if the AI is actually just reading the code to see the source of truth there. So if you're going to document the why, not the how. And then there are some solutions coming out for tackling brownfield code bases. I hadn't heard the term brownfield before, and when I came back to my company, a lot of people hadn't heard that either, so I don't know how newly coined it is. But a greenfield code base is like a Next.js project that you spun up yesterday, and it's using the most recent stuff. And the brownfield code base could, maybe you're using like a 20-year-old programming language and some web forms. And since AI is most comfortable using Next.js and JavaScript and the most recent things, and that's what it's trained on, it's very good with that. But as your code bases get really old, they're hard for AI to properly navigate and actually do good working. So there are some people trying to tackle that problem and seeing some progress on it. So some quick hits. One trend that I observed at the conference, especially from the people in attendance, is AI can generate code fast. What I'm seeing in my own company, and it seems to be a trend there too, is the bottleneck is now code review for actually getting code out the door. And so there are different companies who are coming out with products to try and speed that process up too. Just on screen, there was Greptile in the top bit. I love the name. Graphite and CodeRabbit, and there are probably some others out there. We've recently started to just use Cursor's BugBot, and I'm finding it to be pretty good. So that was one trend. One conversation that I found coming up. So what I did is a little crazy. I wore a recorder the entire time. I recorded all the audio I had in conversation with people, and then I also scraped all the audio from the videos that they put of all the talks. And I put it through an LLM to generate word cloud to see what people were talking about the most. And they were talking about agents. And just a little bit about workflows. So it's mostly, the entire conversation was about agents, and they slapped on the end like, oh yes, everything we're doing for you right now can also be a workflow. For anyone who doesn't know the difference between an agent and workflow, your agent is a tool called loop, running and generating stuff. A workflow is rather than looping, it's just going through once. So an example is that if you're going to upload a PDF document and you want to turn it into an editable, rich text format for people to change, you don't need an agent continuously working on that. You just put it through the pipeline once. AI will probably run some OCR in different sections of it, convert it into your text, and then you're done. So that's probably what workflow is, but most of the conversation is around agents. Workflows right now aren't getting much attention. These seem to be the who's who so far of AI coding assistants. We're all familiar with Cursor. This is us. There's Claude Code, talked about it a little bit before here. There's Codex doing something. Amazon's Kiro, which was trying to push for like spec-based development. You have Warp and Warp 2. Google's Anti-Gravity, which had just come out at that time. And then on the left, Factory and AMP, which are kind of represent different approaches to it. So there's a whole host of them, and at this point, not a lot of clear winners. There are certainly market leaders. And I want to talk briefly about, or just show briefly, at the time they were just launching Google Anti-Gravity. And I'm just going to play a minute video of me smashing together some clips of the demo that they gave, as well as online, for why it feels like it could kind of be different in terms of how software development is done this next year. Flip over, just let they do the talking for me. We'll see if audio actually goes through. Otherwise, we'll just skip the video.
For each flight result, make the entire card clickable to open a Google Calendar link with the flight information.
Was that audible? If it wasn't, then we'll just skip the video part. In the back, was it audible? Okay. A little bit.
But your mic did it.
Notably the times and locations. Test this with the browser and show me a walkthrough when you are done. And now with that blue little cursor, it's moving its cursor around the screen to actually test our application. Let's actually tell it and leave it some comments. So just like a Google Doc, you can highlight text, leave comments, and just say, use the key I gave you in the .env.local. And
So kind of cool was just their ability to add comments to different parts of the code or the plans that it was coming up with, and then it would take all those comments and pen them into one prompt that you were sent over to the message, and then how they basically just integrated Playwright into the whole stack. Until they integrated Playwright into the whole stack. Sorry, thanks for that. Those are two things that were coming up, and next one.
looks good to me. Implement this in a util folder.
He kind of sounds like
so
Barack
that
Obama
I
to me.
can apply
There's
it
a little bit of that to it.
Route, don't change the route yet. We can start in image space. And what's really cool about image space is it lets you do really cool things like this. We can add comments. And so you end up commenting and leaving a bunch of queued up responses. And it's kind of like GitHub. You'll just say, all right, now update the design. And then we'll put it in here. The agent is smart enough to know when and how to apply those comments. And now we're iterating with the agent in image space. And so it's a whole new way of working. And this is really at the center of what we're trying to build with anti-gravity. It's pulling you out into this higher level thinking.
So I don't think that software developers are necessarily going to want to jump over to kind of more like a UI way to change the product. And I don't think that what they showed there is going to be sufficient for most of the tasks that they try to do. I just think that the cursors trying its interfaces like the editor, the agent interface. This one also seems to be trying to do something that isn't just the browser and isn't looking at the code directly. And it seems like maybe it's plausible enough to at least get more product managers and designers in changing the code and getting the feedback that they want. I could just see this as becoming part of the software development workflow, maybe by software engineers, maybe by other people starting to come in. But it seems different enough from the kind of interface that we're seeing with cursor and cloud code that they're kind of becoming variations of each other. This seems different enough that it could be a new kind of pattern that we start to see. It might be useful to work with. So that was anti-gravity. Second industry trend that seems to be coming up is a tighter coupling between like software packages and particular agents or models that they're using. For anyone who doesn't get it, this is Reese Witherspoon and her agent, who are one of the only examples of agent and model coupling that I could find in popular culture. So the point is just like Cursor made Composer to one, stop sending so much token money out over to the other providers. There's another company called Poolside that are developing their own model to work within their editing interface. So we may see some more of that happening too. Some things that I did not see happening in conversation, no one was talking about like, oh yeah, we built it in Rust to be faster. Or they weren't at this conference talking about, here are different frameworks we use to build agents. Instead, it was just talking about how we make agents better. And a lot of that was through talking about like how you basically put it in the agent in an environment where it would get tests back to say that it's messing things up. And they use that to iteratively change the browser parts of the configuration. But those things are not happening. Sometimes I find it helpful to know what conversations aren't happening as much as which ones are. So this was the part where I was thinking for myself, like, okay, I'm still trying to learn how to do all this. How does doing all these things make me code better with agents? And like, is orchestration a thing? Like having a bunch of different agents work all together? And this is what I kind of imagined that maybe I should be doing, and I wasn't sure. Are other people doing this? Are they running 100 agents that are running 100 agents each, and they're just like coordinating these swarms and all that? Talking to the devs that were there from Cursor finding out about what their actual workflows are, they say that usually in their day they have one main agent doing that they're working on directly with whatever hard, complicated task is actually taking some effort. And then for lighter tickets, smaller bugs, they're shooting off some background agents to do something light where they can check and go, okay, yeah, it looks good enough. But it doesn't seem that people are running like 10 or 100 different agents autonomously, just like occasionally checking and like, ah, that looks good. At the same time, this came out probably like on January 2nd, where the creator of Cloud Code was like, here's how I'm coding. And it seems like people were doing Cloud coding where they are running like 5 different agents or cloud agents at the same time. So this could change this next year. I've also started to read through the post they had and make some adjustments in my workflow. It's just reading through the text gene if you don't already know about it. That's a QR code to this link to be able to read through them. So with that, 10 agents, like can I just tell it to start a project and then at the end of my career it'll be done and I don't really need to touch it since? It doesn't seem to be like that. People were talking about long-running agents and maybe being like an hour. But then at the same time, you have Ralph coming in and gave a whole different approach to, yes, letting this thing cook overnight. And if you don't know what Ralph is, take a picture of the QR codes. Those are like a 20-minute intro to it, the 1 hour. I'm still trying to figure that one out. The one way to actually run different agents is to start with the work tree. Cursor is a setting for this, Google it, or ChatGPT it. And chat management is the biggest takeaway for me, and speaking faster saves time. Anytime you see this saying you're absolutely right, you'll obviously paraphrase from one of the other talks, that's usually a good time to restart your chat. Because it means that it's not off the rails in some ways. And thinking about it, if agents just like LLMs, they're meant to repeat the pattern that they see. So if they see, the theory goes, if they make a mistake and you correct it, and they make a mistake and you corrected it, and then you ask them to do something else, what should its next response be? Probably something that's kind of a mistake, so you correct it again. So try to have chats where it's not making the left turns, just restart the chat fresh with the things you want to correct instead. Context window management, try and think, you have those 200K tokens, but they're not all created equal. If you can stay under 40% of what that is, that's usually where you're getting the best performance, because it should be thinking better. The thinking it does at the end of the 200K is much worse than, or it seems to be worse than the stuff at the start. Someone asked before, why even shave this stuff away from the start of Cloud Code? Presumably that gives you more space in the smart zone part of it. And if you have a big project, break it across like a research plan increment. Do one chat where you get it to figure out what is the current state of the code base. Then you take that research plan and put it into what is the current, what's our plan for implementation, and then you implement it. So what's future software dev look like? That question turns a lot more into what stands to be really different. Or as one of my project coworkers asked, can I stop babysitting a chat this next year, Michael? The answer is probably no. No, you're still just going to be babysitting chats. It's going to be more babysitting. Okay. But the three things that seem quite different were maybe some UI patterns that you can start to see coming out of Google Gravity, Cloud skills I'm quite curious about, and then this composer model sync bit happening. These are the best talks that I thought that were most important and most useful for me. And then should devs go? Probably not to this one. Consider the world fair if you don't have prior experience working in AI. Don't leave AI comments in the code. There's some question of it helps the indexing for Cursor to find where my code is better. Talking to the people who work at Cursor, they say it might confuse the model a little bit. It's going to make a marginal difference, but it adds code smell. So remove the comments. And lots of these tools are in early development, so if you reach out to the developers, they probably let you get beta or a lot of credits to just interact with them. Not related to the conference, but just something on my mind is then sub-agents, I think I haven't been hearing a lot about it, and I think it could actually be pretty good. Sub-agents if you start with Cloud Code, so maybe playing with that. That was lessons from the Eclipse.